We are live.
Yes, we are. So let's make sure that the broadcast is working real quick.
Broadcast live.
We are starting. Go to link. All right, there we are.
This is Facebook, correct?
Yep, it's on Facebook and YouTube. So that is good.
So live here with Cold Calling Mastermind, Kenneth J. Presock, here to my right, located on a different screen. Thanks for joining.
Thanks for joining. So today, what we're going to work through is mastering the cold call and calling objections. So just to start real quick, we're just thinking through the intentions for Mindset Mentors, what we're trying to do here. And so real quick story to start. So today it's talking about building a skill. Cold calling is a skill, and objection handling and negotiating is a skill set that benefits you really wherever you are in your life. So it's more than just sales. It's understanding that you can take away everything that a person has, and you really can never take away the skills the person has built along their journey. And I believe that if I had to start at zero, that I'm 100% confident I would be okay. And I'd still have the skills necessary to build everything up again from the ground up, and probably faster. So, with that, it's not the money that gives you the security, it's the skills that you build. And the group intention here for Mindset Mentors is to help people with that, and build the skills that allows everyone as an industry to be better. So, my life prior to real estate was really paycheck to paycheck. A lot of people are like that, and it's a terrifying existence, living day to day like that. And I was successful on paper. I did medical sales, had no financial skills or knowledge, and just spending more money than I made. And really the daily fear is that my card would be declined, and it was obvious I needed to make changes, and made the decision to get my real estate license. The goal moving into real estate became creating control over my income. So it's not that I wanted to just own my own business. I wanted to have a job that was better. I wanted to do something that was better, and I wanted to have a job where the amount of effort that I applied to my work generated equal or greater income and opportunities. And so in real estate at the beginning, 60 hours a week minimum. I started with Howard Hanna, September 2019. And immediately any success I had was followed by mandatory shutdowns with COVID.
Good times.
Really good times. September 2019 to February 2020, reading off my notes now, I closed one deal and made $1,852 in 5 months, working almost every day. And then COVID shut everything down from March until May 2020. May 28th, I closed my second deal, made $1,852. And the second deal on a $29,000 half duplex, and made another $1,200. So 8 months in real estate, I made $3,107, an average monthly income of $388. And then everyone says, well, why would you keep going after that? Because I go back to, it was worse where I was before. So from May 2020 into 2021, I worked relentlessly, and over the next 18 months, sold 28 houses. But the root problem had never been addressed. I was building the skills, but I still didn't have the financial skills and knowledge required to break the patterns of just being stressed financially. So, after every deal, I found myself back at the start. You need to begin all over again, find more clients, sell another house. And the difference became obvious. So if I didn't apply the massive effort to sell more real estate, the guaranteed result is zero income. And I realized I left the rat race of corporate America and just stumbled into like a different one, a hamster wheel, whatever you want to call it, bolted to a roller coaster. And everyone lovingly refers to that as being a realtor. And, I really believe that I believe the issue, it's not sales training. It's not COVID-19. It's not your clients. It's you, and the ultimate problem was always the same. And I did not change anything. And the problems didn't change until I began to change. I needed to develop the skills and knowledge to handle money and my time in my life overall at a higher level. And what I was doing was not working, and I needed to find a better way. So, I started again in real estate to have control over my income, and the opposite was happening. It was just madness. And I wanted to create a business, not just have a job, a saleable asset, making myself wealthy, not making someone else wealthy. And so I deeply believed that I needed to find a better way. And I believe I found the solution with EXP. So if you relate to that in any way, please reach out to us. We're happy to talk through it and help you. But it's not, again, the money. It's not the money that gives you security. It's the skills you build. So what we're going to work through today is building some of those skills, talking about cold calls primarily because it's mostly where Tim, they're sitting this way. That's why I keep pointing to them. It's how you guys have been building more even than me, with doing cold calls, with working through that stuff. And I will say that if we look at the screen and talk to each other, it'll probably be a better webinar.
Yeah. We'll stay focused here.
So what we're going to do is just talk through, so success that they've had in cold calling, and then share some videos on common objections that, everyone faces. So if you guys, when you talk, unmute yourselves.
Okay.
And I'll mute mine.
All right. So in terms of cold calling, when I got started, that was the quickest way for me to get business. And I got my first listing a month after getting my license. So I joined EXP off the bat. So I don't have experience at other brokerages. But within this group, we had some good training to get us, on the ground running with cold calling, getting listings. And then to my right here, so I'll mute myself in a second. Kenny can unmute, but Kenny he joined us recently, and he's been absolutely crushing it with cold calling. Got 3 listings last week. So I think a lot of people are saying, "Oh, cold calling's dead." And he's been absolutely crushing. Thank you, Pete. Right. So I think a lot of people think that cold calling is dead. I would disagree with that. It's uncomfortable. It's not super enjoyable, if I'm being honest with you, but it is a good, quick way to get business, and it's sustainable for a lot of people. So I guess, Kenny, why don't you talk through a little bit about how your experience has been? You don't need to say where you were before. You don't have to do that. But at least tell us kind of your experience so far with cold calling, how it's been.
So personally for me, I was having trouble generating business. I was working with a couple buyers here and there, not many sellers. And I wanted to find something to change that. And I've always heard about for sale by owners. I wasn't sure where to start exactly. I was always afraid of what they're going to say back to me, like what exactly I'm going to come at them with. I had no idea what I was doing. I sat down with these guys, started training, started making some calls here and there, a couple, focused a lot on rebuttals and scripts on what I was going to say and everything. We ended up working through. I started about 2 weeks ago, actually start consistently making calls, sitting down, scheduling some time. And it turns out I listed 3 houses last Wednesday out of probably, I'd say 15 calls I made another 15 calls yesterday. I have 2 appointments set tomorrow and another one that's kind of iffy. It's on the line, but calling for sale by owners and making calls is a game changer. It took my business from like nothing. Obviously, everybody wants to do listings. You make the calls and you'll get results.
Yeah, it's pretty powerful. You can just say it. I'm right next to you. It's pretty powerful to see, and I think there's a lot of fear. I'm sure you had some fear going into it, right? Even picking up the phone every day, right? Talk through that. How do you get past that initial, oh man, someone might be mad at me for calling them. I'm an agent. How do you get past that?
Personally, you just kind of got to brush it off. If you go in being scared, you're going to sound like you aren't sure what to do. You're going to stutter a little bit, and you're going to kind of make them a little weary about what you're trying to sell them or trying to list their house, obviously. I basically come in just asking questions. Not that I'm coming in to say I'm going to list your house. You just kind of de-escalate the situation and then break it down slowly and then get to the point, like ask them some questions about listing. Have they ever considered? And then some of them, they'll just be like straightforward with you and say, hey, can you come check out my house? I had that actually, the one for tomorrow. He called me back and he's like, can you come check out my house? I'm not sure what to do. It's been on the market for some time. I'm not sure if it's the price or if it's the house. Can you come look at it? And that's basically where it is. You just got to come in, stay focused, stay positive. Anything goes wrong, just brush it off. On to the next call.
Yeah. And the piece that's important that you just made me think of too with that, Kenny, is that's exactly right. And the change that you said was I mean, would you say now you feel comfortable? You can do what you say you're going to do. You know, you have the confidence because you've just been practicing it. I always refer to it as a language. You know, it's a different language. It's a love language, for sale by owner love language. You have to know what to say, because if you just call like your wife or your girlfriend and your mood is terrible and your tonality is off and you sound like you're just being aggressive, it's just like, what do you want? You know, like, what do you mean? What do I want? I love you. I'm calling you. I'm trying to help you. It's just, it's your intentions and the way you carry yourself, I think, is like a fundamental starting point, you know, and that feeling of people are like, yeah, you know what, man, I do need your help. And then you're truly providing a service, and that's what a professional does, you know. So
one thing on for sale by owners.
Yeah. If you unmute your microphone, and we all have
you. And
Yeah.
unmute myself. So one thing for sale by owners in this market, you know, a lot of for sale by owners are very confident, as they should be. You know, it's an insane market. There's no inventory, and a lot of huge objections, which, you know, we'll get to a little bit later in the call. But one of the big objections is for sale by owners is, you know what, I can do it myself. And that's true. They can. The only reason it makes sense to use an agent is if we can net you more money. That's it. If we can't do that, then it's on us to be honest with them and tell them, you know what, you're right. I don't think I'll be able to help you. I don't take every listing. That puts them a little bit at ease. Just saying, hey, you know, I believe you can. It's just what would make sense if I can make you more money. That's really it. Otherwise, sure, you can definitely do it on your own. So I think a lot of other agents that do call for sale by owners are kind of combative in a way. I've called some and they say, hey, you know, you sound like a nice guy. You're really not being rude or pushy. They tell me they can't believe how many agents have called them telling them they're stupid for selling it for sale by owner. I would say rule one of doing business with somebody else and wanting to earn their business is not calling them stupid. I don't know, just a thought.
If we have our sound muted on our computers, so it's not broadcasting, we can all be unmuted and talk, just as you're, okay. So you know.
That's fair.
That is so painful.
Yeah.
And it's something that, you know, again, you just lined it up perfectly, where the first video we were going to share is about 3 minutes long. It's about not interested. Well, that's your response for, hey man, I'm not interested. And it's usually because you haven't conveyed how you're going to provide a service. You're not going to be able to do that if you don't have the objections. Like there's only, okay, well, here's a quick question.
Yeah.
Gun to your head, how many objections do you hear that are the exact same? You know, so like 15, maybe.
Yeah.
15 to 20.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and it's the same back to what I just said, the language, where it's like, and once you have the fundamentals of Spanish, like you can kind of work through like, how do you ask a question? You know, it's just like, and then you can point, you know, it's just like you learn what's going to happen. And then whenever it happens, you're like, where'd you get my number? Google.
Yeah. It becomes auto.
Yeah.
You have these automatic responses.
Because the first time it's like, where'd you get my number? It's like, I looked it up on the internet, right, and I'm sorry. Yeah. It's like, and then they hang up. You're like,
well, that's what's, it's a good point. There's say an expired call, you're going to get 5 or 6 objections almost every time. They might sound a little different, but they're really the same underlying thing. And I think one thing for sale by owners have is, you know, they have the idea in their head that agents are like a commodity. Like, oh, there's tons of agents. You guys are all the same. Well, that's not really true. But then it's also important to like not let your ego get tied into it, because when you have somebody telling you you're generic, it's like, well, that's kind of hurtful. But I know he's not talking about me as a person. I think he's talking about me as an agent. And so knowing how to overcome that objection and just say, you know, this is exactly why I want to meet with you. And I can't give you a price over the phone. I don't know what I can do unless I see it in person, to be fair. It's not fair to give you this assessment over the phone. But it all starts with kind of getting their guard down. Kenny, what's some of the main objections that you've got in the last couple of weeks that you're running into?
One hard one I ran into, he was pretty tough. He said, I do not need an agent. Agents are pointless. MLS is the same thing as listing it on Zillow. And at that point, it's kind of like if they're in that attitude of they're not going to list at all, like they're hard set, price is already too high. It's been on Zillow for 2 months plus. At that point, you kind of just got to walk away.
Yeah.
But I mean, there's all kinds of different rebuttals you come across. Another one is paying a commission fee to a buyer's agent. Some of them don't even know what you're talking about. You ask them a buyer's commission fee, and they're like, "Huh? What's that?" They're like, "Am I supposed to pay a buyer's agent?" And when 9 out of 10 buyers work with an agent, obviously, if you don't pay an agent, they're going to want to turn away because they're not paying their buyer's agent. So,
Right.
But
No, that's, I mean, you're exactly right. Where in what you're doing with those objections, though, it's a mindset shift to realize. Sorry, what?
There's an echo. We'll just do the mute thing.
Okay, sorry. With the objections that you're saying, oh, thank you, Tim Pettigrew. There's an echo. You're educating the consumer. You know, because if they don't sell, if they do so on their own, still, congratulations. The last thing you need is for the industry as a whole to be brought down by the scenario of a for sale by owner getting to the end of the transaction and not realizing that they're going to have to pay a 3% buyer agent fee. At least you helped that person, if nothing else. And that shift is where then you realize, the people out, like, I don't know how to repair my car. The mechanic is educating me. The doctor is educating you on how to take care of yourself better. So,
yeah, I don't want to represent myself in court.
Right.
Hopefully I don't have to go to court. But if I did, I wouldn't want to represent myself. I would like to have an attorney present. But I think, and this kind of maybe gets into a listing presentation, we won't go too far in, but a lot of for sale by owners probably have the mindset of, yeah, I can do it on my own. That's true. I think you can. However, if an agent is representing a buyer, you get under contract as a for sale by owner. That buyer agent's representing the buyer, not you. And so that agent's trained in negotiating, hopefully. So when you get to the inspection period, you're potentially missing out on some of that equity capture that you'd have if you had a agent representing you. They don't think past the initial, oh, I can get several offers on my property. It's like, that's fine. But if you don't know it's a good pre-approved buyer, and you've never worked with that agent before, you don't know how they operate, maybe they're a really good negotiator and you get under contract with them and they negotiate a $15,000 credit. It's like, if you had an agent representing you, potentially you could have saved on that. So that's what, I don't think a lot of folks see that.
Yeah.
Overall, but
well, so let's do this real quick. So it's a 2-minute, 52-second video. The first objection, not interested. We'll watch that, think through it, talk about it.
Yeah.
All right. So Uncle G.
At it again,
man. All right. So let's make sure.
Interested. Okay. Well, of course you're not interested. You don't have enough information to be interested at this point. The reality is, if you were interested, you would have called me. I wouldn't be calling you. But this not interested thing, you have to get a handle on. You got to get what's called flat, emotionally flat, where you have like literally nothing on it except a positive response. Hey, I'm not interested. It's either going to be this: I'm not interested, hang up immediately, or I'm not interested, and they're still listening. Why would somebody say I'm not interested and not hang up? Because they're nice people. They don't want to just hang up on you. Or I'm not interested, but I don't know, maybe I could be, right? It's really those 3 variations, and probably more the first 2 than the third one. I'm not interested, hang up. There is no response. Move on with your life. Don't worry about it. Or flip the lead to somebody else and say, find out why the guy hung up on me. Why don't you call back? Why don't you call back right now? Have a manager call back and say, hey, my guy Grant just called you and you hung up. I want to be sure he didn't do anything wrong. No, we're just not interested. But they're not hanging up now. See what just happened? By you staying interested in the not interested, they might become interested. I know this for sure. If they're not interested and you're not interested, nothing's going to happen. So you got to keep your interest up. You understand? Keep your interest up when they're not interested. The woman I'm married to had no interest. I kept my interest up. I didn't go meet her interest level. I kept mine up here and pulled hers up over time. So the second response here is, I'm not interested, but they hadn't hung up yet. That's where you're going to say this. Of course you're not interested. You don't have enough information to be interested. The fact is, you don't know me, and I don't know you. Why would you be interested? Wouldn't make any sense for you to be interested. Okay. Now, John told me to call you because, and he said to me, she's not going to be interested until she sees it. And when she sees it, she's going to have to absolutely see this. Let me tell you what I do real quick. Now I'm in the call. Okay. Now I'm past my greeting now. Now I'm going to move into what? Qualification. I got to move into my qualification. You got to let people know what you're doing. I'm doing solar. Okay. What's your electric bill? John told me he's spending about $300 a month. I'm thinking in the neighborhood, same neighborhood, you're across the street, you're spending the same money. Okay. If I could save you $100 a month for the next 12 months, that would be $1,200. Over the next 5 years, it'd be $6,000. Okay. If half of what I'm telling you is true, I save you your cable bill. You get it? That's how you handle non-interested. The non-interested needs to be an attitude thing and backed by words. All right. Try it today. Work it out. I'm not interested. Of course you're not. Of course you're not. How could you be interested? If you were, you'd be calling me. I wouldn't be calling you.
It's similar, I guess, in the real estate world. It seems similar to I don't need an agent, right? It's at least how I perceive it. And I think if you can get the guard down, I mean, I guess put yourself in the seller's shoes, right? They listed their property on Zillow and they've gotten 12 calls, 11 were agents trying to list the property. By that 12th call, if you're the 12th one, then obviously you're going to say, I'm not interested or I don't need an agent. And that's why I think we go back to what we've kind of been talking about with like, well, of course you don't need an agent. And then you kind of catch them off guard. They're like, what? You're an agent. You're calling. Yeah, no, I don't think you need an agent. It's just doesn't make sense for you to use one if you can make more money and potentially save money from inspections, appraisal, negotiations, etc.
Exactly. You're calling to educate the consumer. That's it. And with that, someone just took off in a Mustang off the parking lot. Doing burnouts is quite distracting. Uncle G is crazy. Just let's not pretend he's not. He told this story when we were at, so he partnered with EXP. His wife, Elena, works now with EXP. Elena, they're very, very similar. You're right. It's Elena. Is it Elena?
It's Elena.
Sorry. All right. Well, I'm sure she'll see this. The detail of his story is like, he's like, I called my wife like 21 times and left her respectful, nice voicemails asking her out on the date. It's like, well, that's crazy. It is, but it worked. And you know what I mean? Like he brought her interest level up because he was interested. He didn't just be like, no, like, okay, that's a whole different example, but he uses that story all the time, like he uses it because it's probably real, and in the sense that like, do you want to help? I've never said yes when someone at a store buying pants has been like, sir, do you need some assistance? It was like, no, I'm in the pants store. I'm going to buy some pants. Please leave me alone. Like I do it to everybody. I don't know how many
it's like
freaking
instinctual to have somebody walk up and be like, no, I'm good. And
you can buy pants on your own. That guy can help you so much faster. It's like, where are the pants that I'm looking for if I would just be open to like, that's a whole different conversation on vulnerability.
I have a sad confession, and then I want to ask Kenny a question. So yesterday and today, I was looking through some of my nurture folders, which started out with usually it was more expired listings and for sale by owner, but for sale by owner is a good example too. I had all these nurtures that I hadn't followed up with in a while. And in those folders, people were saying, I had my notes basically. I talked to a property owner that didn't sell previously, and they'd say, you know what? Yeah, I don't know. We're not sure what we're going to do, but we may sell in a couple of years. And so my notes were may sell in a couple of years. I didn't follow up enough, and I just was looking through the MLS again. Well, guess what? They sold last summer, and I didn't know. And so that's maybe a topic for another day in terms of nurturing, following up. But I calculated it, and this was probably not a good idea. I lost several millions of dollars of sales over the last year because I didn't properly follow up, or I took some of their objections as, oh yeah, they're just not interested. If you can get their motivation and their timing on it, then just do the simple math. Okay. They might be selling in 6 months. Call them again in 3 weeks. They may not remember you.
They won't.
But the objection of like, oh, I'm not interested, or send me an email. I don't know. It's just, you need to be persistent and just stay aligned with what your goals are for your production year, I guess.
For the question, I'll mute myself. You guys use your microphone.
Okay. So, oh no. So Kenny, I guess on the not interested or on the I don't need an agent, I'm sure you ran into a couple of those. How did you get past, or even if you did, I guess because I think what's common is like, and me too, starting out, it was like I get frustrated with some of these responses, and I'd be like, man, maybe I'm not really that good, or maybe this doesn't work. So instead of just writing it off, how did you kind of get past that and say, I'm going to keep calling? And then you got 3 listings last week. I mean, that's insane.
I mean, definitely staying positive is the biggest thing towards it. Obviously not every call is going to go that way. So, I mean, if there's one bad one, or even you'll have the days where it's multiple bad ones, and the best objective is just to try to de-escalate the situation, try to bring them down a couple notches, just so you're on a talking level and just agree with them with everything. That's the best bet, to try to bring them back around. Sometimes you might be able to even try to get there and negotiate, even try to say maybe some prices or whatnot, but trying to bring them down a level is what I've always tried to do. But getting through those, on the other hand, you just got to stay positive and just start making more calls after that, and you'll come across better ones.
So, no, that's a good point. It sounds like basically from you getting the repetitions, making more calls, you could kind of know what to expect when you're calling somebody, like I can't tell you how many calls I've had in my life where I called somebody, a FSBO, for example, and they were like, wow, I'm so glad you called, Tim. There might be 1 or 2 in the last couple of years,
I've never
but
had that.
I don't think that ever happened. So like you go into it knowing there's a chance this person's probably going to be upset. And so that's why one of the scripts that we use is, hey, I was just calling to ask you a couple questions about the property. Is that okay? So you're asking permission. Is that okay? Not, hey, I'm so-and-so with RE/MAX and you're selling it on your own, and that's kind of stupid. It's like, well, you're probably going to be met with a lot of resistance on that. So
I would say that this muting thing, I would say you're only going to be met with resistance. So again, Uncle G, you teed it up perfectly. The next video we were going to go through real quick is, can you call me next quarter? And that's exactly what Tim just said, where, hey, can you call me next quarter? Can you call me in a year? We're looking to sell in the next couple years. I don't know. And then you find out that they sold, with someone else, or they sold 3 weeks after, because someone consistently followed up, providing them information. And so to the video, can you call me next quarter? It's not the exact objection that you're going to get, but it's more of the concept that you're going to run into. So go back to the screen share real quick.
Uncle G training module.
Correct. And once I'm able to, get my computer to work,
I believe in you.
I believe in me.
Even the computer.
I believe that this will work. All right. Call me next quarter. This is what you said.
Next quarter. Oh no! You ever felt like that inside? Like, oh my God, not the next quarter. I can't do the next quarter. This is my bonus deal. Got too little in your pipeline, folks. Okay, too little in your pipeline. If you're like getting sagged out on this, call me next quarter, call me next year, maybe in June, maybe next December. Look, come on, man, get the pipeline full. Okay, there's 7 billion people on this planet. There's 28 million small businesses in America. There's 20. I mean, come on, please. Keep the pipeline full. Make the call. You're going to get this. Call me later. Absolutely. Be happy to do that. I mean, you need to act right now like, oh my God, I'm so glad you're not buying. I am so overwhelmed with paperwork and contracts. I thought you were going to say, send me a proposal right now. Okay. Next quarter is great for us. In fact, next quarter is better for me than right now. I'm going to send you over everything you need to know so that next quarter, when are you thinking about in the next quarter, by the way? First month, second month, or the third month? Now what you're trying to do is find out what? Acknowledge, be positive, be a professional. And now what are you trying to find out? Is this a shove or is this a real deal? Is this a push off, not really interested, or no, dude, March, first half of March, we're players, okay? So let me ask you, I'm going to send you over everything you need to know so that by March 10th, you're ready to pull the trigger. In fact, if you know you're going to be doing this in March, and I'm not saying you do or you don't, only you know that, okay? If you know for sure March 10th that you're going to be pulling the trigger on this, like I said, only you know that, okay? Then I'll send it over to you. Just sign it. We'll date it for March 10th. All right, I'm going to tell you, I have had people like, yeah, dude, I'm good for that. It was legit. Next March, next quarter, it was a legit deal, okay? And the way I handled it, the guy's like, yeah, let's do it, man. I also had a person do this. You know what? Just send it over, date it today. Let's get started. See how you handle people is you're responsible for how they're going to respond to you. Oh my God, what do I got to do to get you to do it now? No, that's never going to get you this deal. When the guy in his own mind just said, or the gal said, hey, next quarter works for us, and then you start pushing for right now, there's no way you're going to get there. It's just not real. Okay. So I tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to VIP you, put you in the queue, sign it for March 10th or whatever the date is. I'll put you in the queue. That way you're set up perfect. Gives me the time I need. And it puts you back in a position in this call to take this deal all the way, to push for the close again. Be willing to waste this lead if you need to. Okay, what I mean by that is this. Even though I can't imagine how I would waste a lead by doing this, you need to be willing to waste the lead. The reason I'm telling you you need to be willing to is because I know you guys are scared. I know you're scared. You're like, okay, I just better put it on my calendar, call him March 10th. No, you don't want to do that. Stay in this call. Be happy. I'll set you up for March 10th. I'll set you up for the next quarter. I'll make you a VIP in the queue. I'll send it over to you right now. I text it. I can email it. Ink it. Good try. Good try, young man. They know what you're doing, man. They know you're a pro, and they're going to respond in a way that's positive because they would want their own team to do the same thing. Hey, great. That's an excellent idea. I'll send it over to you for March. Let me ask you a question now, okay? If you were 100% convinced that my product could solve your problems, do everything that I promised you it could do, is there any chance, I'm showing you another way to do this, is there any chance we could move this up? Not for you, not for the company, not for your customers. We could move it up to this quarter, and I'm going to tell you why. Before you say yes or no, I'm going to tell you why. We would do it for me. I got 2 little girls at home. I got a wife that's expecting a big Christmas, okay? I can't tell you how much it would help me, okay? Or you could do this, all right? Hey, let me ask you something, okay? All right, I'm going to set you up for next March. I'm going to call you back then. If I'm in the neighborhood, could I drop by and see you, okay? See, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to accelerate this thing. I'm not giving up. I'm in the deal. I hope you're taking notes right now, okay? That was crazy. That was good, right? Or you could do this. The buyer just told you, hey, man, set me up for next quarter. Excellent, great, super. That works perfectly for me, okay? Let me ask you something. When can you make me 15 minutes? 15 minutes, not for me to sell you, not for me to change your mind. 15 minutes for me to show you something that I can only show you over video, Skype, if you can't get in front of people or in front of you. I promise you, okay, in 15 minutes, I'm going to do everything I can, not to change your mind, but everything I can to show you why you would actually want to do this now. Can you believe I just said that? Listen to what I just told the guy. Look, I'm not going to change your mind. I'm not interested in changing your mind. I don't want to change your mind. I'm just going to tell you why you would want to change your mind.
Uncle G at it again.
Uncle G at it again. All right. So with that one,
Motivation.
the motivation is what you're trying to uncover. And the concept of the video, can you call me next quarter? Back to what you just said a couple minutes ago, Tim, the concept of someone saying, hey, we're going to sell, in the next year. That's everybody. Everyone's going to sell their house on average in the next 5 to 7 years. Literally, like almost everyone in the freaking world. Like, I think the numbers are, it's like on average, people move between like after 7 years of owning a home. So my point saying that is, if you're just discounting yourself out of the game where it's like, okay, you'll be ready in March. Well, let's make a plan. So when March arrives, you know what the plan is going to be. You're figuring out the timing and the motivation. The timing is not always going to be in your favor. In fact, it's mostly going to not be in your favor. It's never going to be now. It's always going to be at some point in the future. And the concept is you're making a plan, figuring out the motivation, where it's like, well, why March, not now? The question.
There's a couple good.
Right. And the question would be like, in a perfect scenario, I like how questions and what questions, because why questions make you defensive, where it's like, why are you wearing a black shirt? You're like, I don't know, because I fucking wanted to. Like, why are you moving in March? Don't call me again. Why you move, like, what's the reason you're moving in March? How soon are you looking to move? What's the reason you're looking to move? Like those sort of questions. So.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah, tell me.
So one thing that he pointed out that's good is, when he's saying, okay, you don't know if it's a brush off or if they actually have a reason why they are moving in March, or like in this case, moving in March or buying something in March. So that's why, there's a couple I think that we've kind of worked with that's helpful. One of them is, first of all, just finding the motivation in general. So if it's an expired listing, asking them, hey, I'm just curious, had this sold last time, what was the plan? And if they're like, well, we're going to move to Florida, but that ended up not working out. And then you kind of dig in on that a little bit. If they're comfortable and open to talking to you, it's like, you get to the point where you say, okay, so I hear you say March, but I guess technically speaking, if we could get you what you want for the property, now, we're the last thing standing in between you getting to Florida. Is that right? They might say, yeah, actually, I guess that's true. It's like, okay, well, how about we do this? Then you close or whatever. But another big one that DJ works on too, that's really helpful is if you can sense there is motivation and you think it's a brush off, maybe just saying, I'm just curious. What do you think that you will gain by waiting a month? And that's usually for sale by owners. Yeah, we're going to try it out for a couple of weeks. If it doesn't work, we'll probably list. Okay, I'm just curious. What do you think you'll gain by waiting 2 weeks? They've probably never been asked that before. So it's kind of a good way to uncover some of their motivation and just keep the conversation going, keep their guard down. I'm good.
So with that, I can be on your microphone.
Okay.
My question is, say that one more time. What would you gain question? Because I think ultimately what you're trying to figure out, right, is again, I just defer back to timing and motivation, but you're creating urgency.
Right.
And you're forcing people to think through what's going to occur, where it's like, yeah, I don't know why 30 days from now I'm going to feel differently. But it's like, seriously, what do you think is going to happen in the next 30 days that's going to be different?
Not only that too, it's like the time of the year. So right now we're the end of February. You say, oh yeah, we're going to try it on our own for a month, and then, or maybe, hey, I'm an expired listing. Oh, we're going to wait till April to list. Oh, I'm just curious. What makes you want to wait till April? Oh, well, houses just sell in the spring. It's like, oh, really? I'm curious. Where did you hear that? Or I guess, is there somebody specifically that told you that? And then getting into, if you think about it this way, inventory's low. You're going to have a lot less competition now than you will in the spring. And the serious buyers now would potentially be scooping your property up. You don't have as many competitors on the active market right now.
Right. And that's exactly what I was leading you to.
Look at that.
In the concept too, where like I did this yesterday, where the guy that I was meeting with, it wasn't a first sale by owner call, but the listing appointment was like, well, this, and this has to happen. It's like, okay, well, how are we going to accomplish that? It's just like, they'll tell you the objection of why they need to wait until January 1st or next year or whatever it is. And there was one of the role play videos that I was watching with you and DJ doing the listing presentation. He was talking about a home that he sold in the Fox Chapel area. And so what occurred with that is, I'm going to and switch it. So what occurred with that was, it was a for sale by owner. House was overpriced. DJ ended up selling it for $390. For sale by owner was getting ready to drop it to $350. There's always things that people won't tell you. And what was going to happen was they were bleeding cash. The family needed the money. They were just trying to sell this house because they needed money. They didn't tell DJ that the husband was about to get let go from his job. There's always some underlying thing. And afterwards they called him back, told him, the real reasons that they decided to actually work with him, and thanked him immensely because, again, he got them 390 because he's following a proven repeatable system backed by market research to get you on average up to 18% more than the average real estate agent. And the process that you follow, you lay out a plan. It gives people peace of mind. It's like, congratulations, you had a heart attack. You like change your whole diet. You can't just like tell people to do that. You have to help them make a plan and work through the plan. So with that,
congratulations.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of bad bedside manner doctors out there, but at the same time, there's a lot of real estate agents that you call and be like, you're stupid for listing it on your own. So not to get completely off topic, landing the plane, what I think might be a good topic to wrap up on is a common objection where like, I need to talk to my spouse. I need to talk to the sales manager. I'm not the decision maker. Is that, I guess I want to turn it to you, Kenny. Is that something that you've experienced? Like, I need to talk to my wife sort of thing.
Okay, go ahead.
Personally, I haven't actually come across any live calls where I've run into something like that. I really don't have much to say besides the training, working with DJ and stuff.
Yeah.
So
I think
don't have much.
And I mean, keep in mind too, like, you're only 2-3 weeks into
consistently
consistently cold
weeks,
calling.
yeah.
So definitely like that is an objection or a condition. I think a couple ways to handle it that I've heard and I've used that are pretty effective is, saying something like, well, you know what? Hey, I completely understand. I personally, I would never do anything out without, getting my wife's approval as well. We're a team. I completely understand that. I am going to be in the area Friday at 4. What if we did this? What if we just put it on the calendar? You talk to your wife or husband. And if this doesn't work Friday at 4, then give me a call back. We can find another time. And that way you're at least semi-committing. They're less likely to call you back and say, no, we're not going to meet with you. So at least just getting something on the calendar. Another good one that we've used is, I'm sure that they would support your decision financially in terms of just wanting to get the most amount of money for your property though, right? That's, they would support you in that, I'm sure, right? Because they want to get it sold as well. So it's a way to just at least kind of keep talking into it and get past that and then, try to get to the close again. But a couple different ways to get through it. I think it's all repetition.
I feel like that brings it back to if they're open-minded or the closed-minded situation. You kind of got to discover that throughout the call, but nobody's ever going to turn that down. I mean, if everybody's usually open-minded to at least sitting down to possibly making them more money, because who's going to turn down more money?
Right. Yeah, exactly. It's like, so you're telling me that your husband or your wife, they wouldn't be fine with making more money on the property? I guess I'm confused by that. And it seems kind of passive aggressive, but
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah. If you are able to keep them on with that, and you'll be able to gauge that with how the conversation's going. If they're angry, I probably wouldn't say that.
For sure.
Yeah.
And in the final piece on that, where, again, we have, I think, the time for just maybe like the one more video, we can just listen to another opinion on it. But my thought, whenever I'm getting like you say something and then it's your job to be rejected because you're the salesperson and it's the consumer's job to reject you. That's the game. It goes back and forth. You have to be ready for it. You have to know that it's going to happen and look forward to it when it does, because you're like, oh my God, thank God I practiced this one. And every single time it's isolate the objection, talk through it with them, overcome the objection. I need to talk to my spouse. Okay. Where is she right now? Like, maybe not that, but where is she working?
Where are they?
If you could set up a time with your wife so we can meet, I can take a walk through the property and we can discuss further. Would you be open-minded to doing that? If your spouse was here right now, what objections do you think she would have to working together?
That's a good one.
It just like,
yeah.
Is there something that you think that she would want to hear? I'm happy to give her a call, or let's set up a time. Like, it's just pushing to the next thing in the future where it's like, it's never that they need to talk to their wife. It's that they don't want to talk to you right now.
Yeah.
And they do maybe want to double check with her, but if they're planning on selling their house and you're calling to ask to come see the house, there's a very good chance that having to check with his wife. Like my point in saying that is they're two decision makers. Say it one more time. Yeah, there's two decision makers, and you need to have every decision maker involved. So the last piece,
as you're pulling it up too, while you're pulling that up, I think if you're able to initially kind of get their guard down in the beginning, and I usually try to lead with, hey, it's really no obligation to meet. This may or may not even work, and I'll be honest with you, I may not be able to help you. I at least just want to meet with you and see the property. That way they don't feel like they're committing, like, hey, this guy's coming out to list the property indefinitely. If you can get that guard down, I think that helps.
Thanks, Tim.
Yes. Talk to your director. Need to talk to my director.
I need to talk to my director.
I got to talk to mama. I got to talk to my wife. I got to talk to the husband. I got to talk to the CFO, the CEO, the board. I got to talk to my investors. I got to talk to a committee. You're in the call. They're hooked. They dig it. They love it. Oh, man, if it was up to me, I would do it. But I got to talk to somebody else. Hey, great. Excellent. Super. Okay. It needs to be like that every time. Great. Oh, my gosh. Super. Oh, I'm so excited about that. Man, your attitude's got to be crystal right here, okay? Excellent, great, excellent. Who would that be? And by the way, let's set them up. Let's set them up with an executive summary. Let's set them up with something they can look at and then get the names. How many people are we talking about? What are their names? What are their titles, okay? Based on what you know about them, go down the list. Bob, Ron, Beverly, right? What is that person going to say right now? Is that person going to be inclined to do this or not do this? Who's going to be the influencers for it and against it? What you're trying to find out right here is who's on this board. Let's assume it's valid objection. The guy just told you, man, look, I got to put it in front of a board. Find out who's on the board. Okay, I'll tell you a quick story. I was buying a piece of real estate, actually a big portfolio. There were 5 people controlling the sale. 5 people controlling the sale of this portfolio that had to be sold. It had to be sold because the guy that owned it died. 5 people were left. They don't care, dude. They don't care. They're just doing their job. They're shoving paper. So when I found out from Robert that there was 5 guys on the board, I'm like, who's going to be for me buying it? Who's going to be against me? He's like, I don't know. Well, good. Guess. Get an answer to your question. That's what professionals do. Professionals don't ask questions. They get answers to questions. They insist on an answer. 5 people. Who's going to like me? Who's not? I don't know. Guess. Dude, you're a professional. Take a guess. A guess is better than a vacuum. Tell me who's for it. And then he says this, Grant, there's only one guy that matters. Bam! I'm not dealing with 5 people. I'm dealing with one guy, okay?
All right. Last piece.
That's a good one.
So, and that's the thing too, where off of that, the last piece of the objection of I need to talk to my spouse, something that I hope will be valuable just as a peace of mind thing. When you do set up an appointment and you go to someone's house, one of the first things that we've been trained to say is, well, who's going to give me the grand tour? And the decision maker will identify themselves by saying, honey, why don't you take him on the tour? Or I'll take you on the tour. It exists in a dynamic where not always, but it helps to kind of align where, like, if one person is on the phone with you, you set up the appointment and you go, and it's like he was saying, 5 people are on the board of directors to make the decision. Well, there's only really one main or 2 main people that you have to get bought in. So you want to be aware of who the decision maker is. It is usually a 50-50, 100% partnership, but the husband's getting transferred for his job. So he's more motivated to talk to the wife to get it going. The wife didn't want to move in the first place. You're talking to both of them, but the motivation is what you're trying to uncover. So
I think one thing on that too, that's because I've wasted a lot of time, to be honest with you, going on appointments where either not all the decision makers, or, I mean, similarly, it makes my perception is, hey, so-and-so is the decision maker. And then I go there, do a listing presentation. It goes great. And they say, hey, I like everything you're saying, but man, I'm really just going to need to talk to, my wife or my husband about this before committing to you. And so you can avoid that entire situation by on the call when you're pre-qualifying the appointment saying, hey, I understand this is a huge decision. I'm just curious. Are all the decision makers in this process, are they going to be there whenever I come to meet you? And if they say, oh, well, actually my husband's working, so it'll just be me, or yeah, my wife's, I don't know, she'll be here tomorrow. So, okay, great. Well, what I want to do is, I think it's most beneficial if I'm able to meet with both of you. That way I can educate you both on how this process works, and you guys can collaborate and come to a decision together. How does that sound?
Right.
That way you don't get there and then you're like, oh man, it went well, but they said they're going to talk to their wife, and then I didn't hear back from them.
And I think that's when things start to fall apart, because
Right.
your presentation is then being filtered through someone else to
It's like
another
a
important
telephone
party.
game.
And it's exactly, it's telephone, it's webinars, it's the information gets blurred. So
Yep.
I think we've beat this point to death.
Yeah.
In closing, we can end a couple minutes early. I think that one of the, let me do the mic game. One of the most important things is you're going to hit objections. Again, that's the game. You're calling, providing a service, and remembering that it's your job to educate the consumer. You're calling with the intention of helping people. You need to get your thoughts straight before you just start blowing people up on the phone.
Yep.
Because they're going to majority reject you, and that's okay. That's not what sales is, but it's expected. It's expected that that's going to occur. And if you at least practice, not interested, call me next quarter, need to talk to someone else, you will eliminate like 50% of your fear, because you're like, oh, great. Whenever they're saying the thing, you have to listen, but that you're able to help, you're prepared with a response, and it's a genuine conversational, the same way that you learn Spanish.
And they might not even know they need you yet. One thing I'm guilty of is thinking, I'm bothering this person. Stop thinking that way, because as soon as you say, I feel like I'm just bothering this person by calling them, when I talked to them yesterday, don't think that, because if you do, that's going to prevent you from making the call. And then DJ Fairley is going to call them and set the appointment and close it.
It's a freaking pit
he's
bull.
going to get the sale because somebody more aggressive did that. So they might not know they need you, but don't feel like you're bothering them. If your intentions are good, that's all that matters.
I agree. I believe you're 100% correct. So
Thanks, Pete.
You're welcome. Let's wrap it, team.
Kenny, any closing remarks?
Nope, not really. I think it's good. Yeah.
Good
I
team.
really wanted to see how that looked on the screen.
It's not as cool as you thought. The next week, we're going to let everyone know the topic we're going to be covering is more advanced cold calling. Just working through this topic in more depth, because it feels like it's something that even if you're not cold calling for sale by owners or expired listings, you're going to need to know how to negotiate on the phone if you're going to sell houses, because you're going to be calling Tim or DJ or me or somebody, and you're going to be talking through the appraisal. You're going to be talking through how to handle the problems that do occur throughout a real estate transaction. Just getting an initial appointment is about 20% of the overall deal. You're going to have to be able to convey information over the phone in a respectful, professional, productive manner. And so, again, trying to put the information out into the universe. If you have any questions about this, we're happy to talk to you about it in more depth.
Or you want scripts.
Yeah. And we also are absolutely willing to share the scripts that we use, any other information. We do Wednesday role play calls with DJ Fairley is one of the leaders of our team. Absolutely welcome to join those as well. And again, thank you all. Appreciate you all. And we will see you next time.